Since both my parents were working full-time, I attended daycare from a young age and grew up watching my parents work hard every day. My childhood dream was to become a successful career woman. I wanted to be an independent woman who could stand on her own without relying on anyone else. Because of that dream and my strong personality, I was very competitive as a child. If I fell during a race in PE class, I'd get back up without crying, determined not to lose. If I didn't score in the top of my class on a test, I'd stay up late studying until I got better results. I had a fierce determination that I would never lose.
You don't always have to be number one, Sarah. We just want you to shine as yourself. We're proud of how hard you work, but remember it's important to learn on your family too. We're here to support you.
I entered a prestigious high school known for its high academic standards, and I passed the entrance exam with top scores. It was in this high school that I met my future husband, Mark. Mark had the highest grades in the entrance exam and gave the freshman speech at the opening ceremony.
I've always worked hard and never feared failure. It's okay not to be number one. I believe failure is an important experience.
I still remember how deeply Mark's words resonated with me because my dad used to say similar things to me. I felt an instant connection with Mark when I first heard him speak. Mark and I were in the same advanced class, which was full of the top students in the school. Even in such a competitive environment, Mark was always at the top. As we grew closer, he told me stories from his childhood and school days.
I've never placed second in sports or academics. My mom was pretty strict, but I'm grateful because it made me capable of handling almost anything.
I met Mark's mom at the entrance ceremony. She was wearing an expensive-looking outfit and seemed like a strong woman. Given how successful Mark was, I understood why his mom might have been strict. We spent all 3 years of high school in the same class. Mark excelled in everything. He was a class leader, the anchor for our class's relay team, the conductor for our choir competition, and he always topped the class in exams. He was tall, had a good build, and while he wasn't drop-dead gorgeous, he was very handsome. I admired him deeply and had a bit of a crush, but I never acted on it. He felt too out of reach for me to even consider confessing my feelings. After high school, I still admired Mark and worked hard in my studies and job search to keep up with him. Even after facing multiple rejections, I never gave up. Eventually, I landed a job at a top company, which was my 5th choice, and took my first step toward my childhood dream of becoming a career woman. Being hired for a general position as a woman was rare at that time, and the job was intense and very busy. I traveled all over the country, running around in heels I wasn't used to, and became financially and emotionally independent. Although I occasionally exchanged emails with my parents, I tried not to rely on them much because I didn't want to worry them, especially since they were getting older. Every day was about work, work, work. It was the life I had always wanted, but seeing my friends getting married and having kids on social media sometimes made me feel unsettled. As I approached 30, I received an invitation to my high school reunion. Although I had been prioritizing work and had almost no social life, I decided to attend. On the day of the reunion, it was amazing to see how much everyone had changed, yet stayed the same. While catching up with old friends, I heard a familiar voice.
Sarah, is that you? Wow, you look amazing.
Mark, it's been so long. You haven't aged at all. That was how I reunited with Mark. He seemed a bit more laid back than I remembered, but that wasn't surprising after more than a decade. He was still tall, and the suit he was wearing fit him perfectly. Mark told me he was working as a top salesman at a large multinational company, which had been my dream company.
I just won first place in the company's young sales division. They even held an award ceremony for me.
Mark was still the same person I admired in high school, an elite. I told him how I was working hard at my company, and we had a great time catching up. We quickly grew closer after that night, and it wasn't long before we started dating. Both of us were busy with work, so we couldn't spend much time together, but I was very happy. I started to think that maybe I should focus more on my personal life and not just work. Maybe I should consider creating a home and a family, like my friends were doing. These thoughts kept crossing my mind. On our 1-year anniversary, Mark proposed and I said yes. After more than 10 years, we were finally getting married. Getting married at 30 felt like a milestone, and I was overjoyed. But I also had concerns. I was traveling all over the country for work, so I had to decide whether to request a transfer, keep my current job, or even consider a career change. Mark knew how much I loved my job, so I trusted that he would support whatever decision I made. With mixed feelings, I went to meet Mark's mom, Amy. Mark's father had passed away a few years ago, so it was just Amy, who had always seemed strict. She was even thinner and more stern-looking than I remembered.
So, you're Sarah. I hear you were classmates with Mark in high school. Graduating from that school means you must be pretty smart.
I'm not sure about smart, but I work hard at a large company in a position that's not usually held by women. I'm currently leading a major project. As I nervously continued to explain myself, Amy suddenly smiled and said,
That's enough. I can see you're very capable.
I felt relieved, thinking I had earned her approval.
But I don't need a career woman. A woman's job is to take care of the home, to send her husband off with a smile, have a warm meal ready when he comes home, and raise the children properly. That's what I did, and that's what I expect from you.
I was shocked because Mark had never mentioned any of this.
She's right. I'll make the money, and you just need to stay home. There's no need to push yourself to work.
Although being a successful, independent woman was my childhood dream, I couldn't deny that I was physically and mentally exhausted from the demands of my job.
A woman's happiness is in supporting her husband. If you keep working, people might think Mark can't support his family.
As I looked at Mark, he just nodded in agreement with his mom. I thought that times had changed and that people didn't see working wives as a sign of a weak husband anymore. But apparently, I was wrong. But I'm not very good at housework. I've focused on my career, so I might need some help.
That's concerning, but I can teach you. After all, we'll be living together.
Living together? Mark never mentioned that.
Yes, this house is too big for me alone. There's plenty of space for you, Mark, and any future grandkids. Why waste money on a separate home?
I was overwhelmed by her opinions and felt paralyzed. Just as I was struggling with what to do, Mark's next words made my decision.
I'm not the kind of guy who needs his wife to work. I make more than enough to support us. Besides, you're so talented that if you ever want to go back to work, I'm sure you'll find something quickly.
I didn't feel bad hearing that. He was right. I could go back to work anytime I wanted. So I decided to try being a stay-at-home wife, as they suggested. Although I had some doubts, I decided to resign from my job. My colleagues tried to convince me to stay, but they also told me to come back anytime if I changed my mind. With that encouragement, I left the company. I spent the next few months learning from Amy. She was strict, but after years of working in a tough, male-dominated environment, it didn't bother me much. Not long after, I found out I was pregnant. I gave birth to our daughter, Lily. Mark was overjoyed, and surprisingly, Amy doted on Lily as well.
Lily is just the cutest, isn't she?
Seeing her love for Lily was heartwarming, but at the same time, her demands on me increased.
I'll take care of Lily. You focus on the housework. We're running low on some household items, so could you do the shopping?
I dragged my postpartum body around, doing all the housework. Still, it was helpful that Amy took care of Lily while Mark was busy with work. Mark was rarely home, so I appreciated the help, even if it came with a lot of demands. But Amy only doted on Lily and Mark. She always made sure Lily had the best of everything, from food to clothes. I never knew how much money she had from her late husband, but she was always generous with Lily. She never bought anything for me, but I didn't mind. Mark was more focused on his work than ever, rising quickly through the ranks as an elite employee. He had never faced any significant failures or setbacks in his life, so he wasn't prepared for what happened next. One day, when Lily was in upper elementary school, Mark came home looking pale and exhausted, like I'd never seen before. "Mark, what's wrong?" Mark slumped into a chair and spoke in a defeated voice.
It's over. I made a huge mistake at work. The client was furious. My boss berated me, and even my juniors looked at me with pity. I couldn't take it, so I quit.
I was in shock and raised my voice. "You quit? Why would you do that over one mistake? Lily's about to start private middle school, which is going to be expensive." We had just paid for Lily's entrance exam, and now, when we needed the money the most, Mark had quit his job. Even Amy, who was usually unflappable, was shocked and looked distressed. "Can't you go back and tell them you made a mistake?"
No way. I can't show my face there again. Everyone thinks I'm a failure. I'm sure no one will ever hire me again.
Mark had never experienced failure before, and now he was completely unraveling. He locked himself in his room, and I was at a loss for what to do.
"Sarah, you need to go out and work."
"Wait, but you always said a woman's job is to stay home. We still have savings, so let's not rush into anything."
"The inheritance is gone. Mark has probably used up most of your savings, too."
I had been managing the household with the money Mark gave me, but he handled our finances, so I had no idea we were in such a bad situation. I was shocked, but had no time to dwell on it. "I'll find a job, but I'll need you to take care of the house." I had been out of the workforce for years, but I still had my career experience and determination. I was lucky to get rehired by my old company, and I quickly returned to being a career woman. It was overwhelming to suddenly become the breadwinner, but our lives soon stabilized. Although we couldn't live extravagantly, I was able to send Lily to private school and take care of Amy and Mark. Mark would watch me working hard with a bitter expression, but never said anything. I wanted to tell him to pick himself up and start over, but I held back and focused on supporting my family. Amy seemed a bit uncomfortable at first, but she soon returned to her old self, showing little gratitude and only worrying about Mark's well-being. I encouraged Mark to look for a new job several times, but he would just say,
"You don't need me. You're a super career woman after all."
Amy would then say,
"He's still recovering. Let him rest."
Mark started taking money from our account and wandering outside. Looking back, I realized I should have left or confronted him, but I couldn't bring myself to abandon the man who had once provided for me. I continued working hard while Mark spent his days and nights aimlessly. Lily watched her father with a mixture of sadness and disgust, and Mark seemed to sense it too. The atmosphere at home became unbearable. When Lily was in middle school, Mark finally disappeared from our lives.
"You'll be fine without me. I'm going to live with a woman who needs me."
He left a note saying that, and I couldn't believe it. Amy cried out,
"It's your fault. You drove him away. I never want to see you or Lily again."
She tried to kick us out of the house. "Wait, how will you live without me? I handle all the finances."
"Don't underestimate me. I don't need you. I can take care of myself."
And so Lily and I left the house. Lily was old enough to take care of herself by then, and I focused on work while she helped with household chores. We were busy, but we were happy. As for my marriage to Mark, I hadn't filed for divorce because I didn't know where he was. I knew I could get a divorce after a certain period of time had passed, but it seemed complicated, so I left it alone. 10 years flew by. I was able to send Lily to private high school and university, and I was finally able to relax. Mark had left us when Lily was just a child, but I managed to raise her on my own, and I felt a sense of peace and satisfaction. Lily was now 25 and had started her career as a successful woman, just like I had been in my younger days. I was dating a man named Tom, and we were living together in a small but cozy house. Lily knew Tom, and she would visit us from time to time, making our home feel complete. Then one day, I received a phone call from an unknown number. Since I get a lot of calls for work, I answered without thinking much of it. To my surprise, it was Mark.
Sarah, I had a hard time finding your number since you changed it.
Mark? What's going on? You left us and now you suddenly want to talk? My heart was racing as I struggled to process what was happening.
I'm in trouble. Please, help me. We're still family, right? It's your duty to help your husband in times of need.
What do you mean, help? You disappeared for 10 years. How dare you call me after all this time?
Where are you? I took care of you for so long. Don't you feel any obligation to help me out? I'll find you no matter what.
Stop it. You're not making any sense. I'm hanging up now. I hung up and stared at my phone, my heart still pounding. I couldn't believe he had the nerve to contact me after all these years. I didn't even tell Tom about the call. I just tried to put it out of my mind. But a few days later, when I came home from work, I saw shadows near my front door. It was unusual for me to be home early, so I quietly approached, worried it might be an intruder. But when I got closer, I realized it was Mark and Amy.
Finally, you're home. Do you know how long we've been waiting? I'm begging you. We've had our issues, but we're still family, right?
Please, we need your help. We're family after all.
Mark had aged significantly, and Amy no longer looked like the well-put-together woman I once knew. What are you talking about? Please leave. I tried to push them away, but they weren't giving up easily.
After I left, I moved in with a woman named Emily. She's different from you. She really needs me. But I messed up and ran out of money.
I listened, my brow furrowing as I took a step back. Apparently, Mark had met this younger woman named Emily after he quit his job. He was a part-time worker who always seemed to be struggling financially, and she relied on Mark to provide for her. Emily boosted Mark's ego, making him feel needed, something he hadn't felt in a long time.
I told Emily I was a business owner to impress her, but I was just working for a construction company. The owner, Mr. Stone, treated me well, but the pay was low. I had to borrow money from him just to keep up appearances for Emily.
And your mom? What's she been doing all this time? I asked Amy, who looked smaller than ever.
I found out where Mark was and moved in with him. When Emily came over, I stayed in a nearby park.
Hearing how pitiful her life had become, I couldn't even look her in the eye.
Now I'm drowning in debt. I quit my job and I have no idea what to do next. We're still married, so we're family, right? Let's start over. You're making good money, aren't you?
As Mark continued his selfish monologue, I let out a deep sigh.
Mom, I'm home. Wait, what's going on here?
I had invited Lily over for dinner that night, not expecting to see Mark again after 10 years.
Lily? Oh, you've grown so much. You're starting to look like me. We're definitely family.
Stop it. We're not family anymore.
What are you talking about? Sarah and I are still married, so we're family. We have a duty to support each other.
What do you mean? I thought you got divorced years ago. Didn't Mom tell you?
As soon as Lily said that, Mark and Amy's faces turned pale.
What do you mean divorced? I didn't agree to that.
You disappeared for 10 years. After 7 years of no contact, you were legally declared dead. My partner is a lawyer, so he handled all the paperwork. If you'd returned a few years earlier, things might have been different. My partner, Tom, is an attorney. We met through work 3 years ago, and he helped me legally separate from Mark. Once we were legally free, Tom asked me to start a relationship with him.
You can't do that without my permission.
Of course I can. Tom is a professional. We're no longer married, so I have no obligation to help you. Mark bit his lip, clearly frustrated.
Oh, and one more thing. You're probably going to get sued by Mr. Stone soon.
Lily waved goodbye and went inside the house, clearly uninterested in staying around.
Why would Mr. Stone sue me? I borrowed money, but he said I didn't have to pay it back.
I smiled at Mark, who seemed genuinely confused. Oh, Mark, you really don't know anything, do you? Do you know Emily's last name?
She was just a part-timer and I never learned her last name.
Oh, you poor thing. You've been deceived for 10 years. Emily's last name is Stone. She's Mr. Stone's wife.
No way. That's impossible.
Oh, it's true. She knew you weren't a business owner. She knew you worked for her husband and took advantage of you for years. Mr. Stone didn't find out until recently. When I met with him for a new project, he mentioned his wife had been buying expensive things. He even joked about hiring a private investigator to find out where she was getting the money. The next week, he told me, looking utterly defeated, that it was worse than he'd imagined. It was you, Mark. When I finished telling Mark everything, his face turned ghostly white, and he started shaking.
No, that can't be true. She told me she was married, but unhappy. She said her husband was abusive and didn't give her any money. I can't believe I was deceived for 10 years.
Just then, Tom came home.
Well, this looks serious. If you get sued, you might want to hire a lawyer, but don't expect me to take your case. Now please, leave. This is private property.
Mark, leaning on his mother, slowly walked away, looking utterly defeated. I couldn't help but feel a small twinge of pity, but I knew this was the end. As expected, Mark was sued by Mr. Stone and faced serious consequences for his betrayal. Mr. Stone divorced Emily, and their lives were shattered because of Mark's actions. I felt terrible for Mr. Stone, whose life was ruined by my ex-husband. Tom and I had been planning to get married, but we decided to stay together without the legal paperwork. Marriage isn't the only way to be happy. I had always dreamed of being an independent woman, and even though the path wasn't easy, I finally achieved my dream. My daughter Lily had followed in my footsteps, working hard as a successful woman. I hope she never gives up on her dreams and finds someone who respects and loves her for who she is.
Self-centered husband who always broke his promises suddenly invited us. Let's go to the zoo. My daughter said.
I'm Jessica, a 35-year-old working mom. My daughter Emily is in 2nd grade and my husband Michael is the same age and works in an office. We're supposed to be a happy little family, but lately it feels like Michael's been putting us on the back burner. Hey, have you started getting ready yet? It was a Sunday morning and I called out to my husband, who was still lounging around, even though we were supposed to be heading to the amusement park as a family.
It's still early. I was planning on hanging out at a friend's place this afternoon.
But we agreed to go to the amusement park today, remember?
Oh, right. Sorry, I forgot. You guys can go without me.
What are you talking about? You should cancel with your friend and keep your promise to our daughter. I even reminded you yesterday not to break your promise again, remember? And you said you got it.
Did I? Well, you and Emily can go without me, but my friend doesn't have anyone else to play the game with, so I need to stick around. You and Emily can have a relaxing day at the park, and I'll meet up with my buddies for drinks later.
Dad, aren't you coming in with us?
Lately, Michael has been breaking promises and prioritizing his friends over us, so Emily must be feeling pretty lonely. But this guy doesn't seem to feel guilty at all. Sure, going out with just Emily is nice, but it's better when Dad's there too. If he were canceling because of work, I'd understand, but it's always friends or coworkers that come first. It's frustrating. I don't expect him to drop his friends entirely, but I wish he'd take his family more seriously. We have a child, after all. He still acts like he's single and is getting really old. A few days later.
Mom, can you take off work for Parents' Day next month?
Yeah, it's on a Saturday, so it's no problem. I'm glad they're doing it on the weekend these days.
Oh, Emily's Parents' Day? Maybe I'll come too. It's on a Saturday, so I should be able to make it. I bet Emily would be happy to have both of us there.
Yay! I'm really looking forward to it.
Are you sure? No last-minute cancellations, okay?
Don't worry, I'll be there.
You better be. I made sure to drill it into his head this time and decided to just hope for the best. Then the day of Parents' Day arrived. I had a bad feeling about it, and for good reason. The night before, Michael went out drinking with his friends and didn't come home until late. He passed out on the couch, and that's where he was when I found him the next morning. Michael, it's time to get up and get ready.
I don't have work today, let me sleep.
Today is Parents' Day.
You promised you'd come.
Oh, right. Sorry, but I've got a hangover. I'm gonna pass.
As if it was no big deal, Michael broke his promise again and went back to snoring. I wanted to drag him out of bed and force him to come, but that wouldn't make Emily happy. I'm sorry, Emily.
It's fine. Breaking promises is just what he does, right?
What?
Honestly, it's probably better this way. I'm happy as long as you come with me, Mom. I didn't expect him to keep his word anyway. The last thing I want is him pretending to be a good dad. So I'm glad he's out of the picture. I'm heading out now. I'll wait for you at school. See you there.
See you, sweetie. She says some harsh things, but maybe she's just pretending to be brave. Emily never complains directly, even when Michael breaks his promises. I wonder if she's holding back how she really feels. A few days later, something surprising happened.
It's a nice day out. How about we all go somewhere together?
What? To my surprise, Michael, who usually goes out alone or just stays home, actually invited us out.
Let's go to the zoo, Emily. It'll be fun. We can see the animals and ride some rides together.
Michael was unusually enthusiastic about the outing, but Emily didn't look too thrilled. And no wonder. After all the broken promises, she's grown suspicious of her dad.
Come on, Emily. We'll see the elephants, have lunch together, and ride the rides. It's going to be a great day.
Something was definitely off. Why was he so set on going to the zoo?
Alright, fine. If Dad is this excited, I guess we can go.
Let's hurry up and get ready before he changes his mind. Once we got to the zoo, Michael seemed restless, constantly looking around. What's wrong, Michael?
Nothing at all. Just trying to decide what to see first.
How about the lions, Mom?
Emily grabbed my hand and led me to the lion enclosure. Both of us were excited, but Michael barely glanced at the lions and kept scanning the surroundings like a bodyguard. The reason for his odd behavior soon became clear.
Isn't that Mr. Michaels?
Yeah, it is. And his daughter is so cute. It's nice to see them at the zoo together.
3 young women approached us and Michael grinned widely. Are they your co-workers?
Yeah, that's Amanda, Sarah, and Katie. They're all really great girls.
Could it be that he invited us just because he knew they'd be here?
Emily, you're so lucky to have such a great dad.
Is this the image Michael is projecting at work? I wanted to tell them the truth, that he's actually a terrible husband who neglects his family. A habitual liar who prioritizes drinking with friends over family time. That's the real Michael.
Dad, isn't it true that you always break your promises?
What? No, I don't.
Oh, come on, Dad. You only brought us here to impress your coworkers, didn't you?
Emily, that's not true. I've never broken a promise.
Emily's frustration was clear. All those broken promises has taken a toll. You've broken so many promises about going to the amusement park, the movies, the beach, skiing, and more. You've hurt her over and over, and now you're lying to everyone about being a good dad?
Are you serious?
Stop it.
You were pretending like a nice dad at work.
You were also telling a lie to us. No, that's not true.
But wait, I heard that Michael was cooking for his family and his daughter was always having fun. You were leaving early from a drink party saying your family was waiting. Last night, Michael said he couldn't work overtime because he wanted to spend time with his daughter. Everyone at the office talks about how much he loves his family.
That's right. These ladies are just messing with us. Last month I went to Emily's school event. I've taken her to the amusement park, shopping, and everywhere else. This is just a cruel joke.
Huh? No one from your workplace has ever come to our house, and you've never missed a single office party. Honestly, you're just full of lies, aren't you?
Does this guy really think he can keep getting away with these lies? Give it a rest, Dad.
They're not lies.
Come on, Dad, let's check your phone for proof.
Wait. Give me my phone back.
One of the coworkers grabbed Michael's phone and compared it to my activity logs. It turned out Michael hadn't been involved with us at all.
So, it was all lies.
What's this place you visit every Friday? And why is it listed over 50 times?
Wait, is that Sarah's house? What does it mean? Well...
You are having an affair with her?
No, it's not like that.
Well, that's why you know my name.
Well, that's why you are covering him.
No, Sarah and I are...
Yeah, I thought I had someone special who loves our family, but to find out it was all a lie? Ugh, I can't believe it.
Let's go.
You can look forward on Monday.
What?
Emily, let's go to enjoy the zoo.
Yes, I was thinking so from the first.
Both of you.
I will prepare for a divorce paper, so enjoy your date.
Divorce? I don't want that.
Wait, everyone. No, it's not what it looks like.
Please, don't leave.
Michael's plan to use us as a cover for his affair backfired. Thanks to the evidence gathered by the women at the zoo, I was able to secure enough for divorce settlement. Michael and his mistress were both demoted and had their bonuses cut. Even after changing departments, rumors followed them, and now they're treated with cold indifference by everyone at work. I'm so glad to be free from that liar. Wow, I ended up buying 8 puddings because they were discounted.
They expire tomorrow.
Well, guess I'll have to eat them in 2 days.
You just want to eat them all, don't you, Mom?
Busted. I can never lie to you, Emily.
And I'll help you eat them.
You just want to eat them, don't you?
Busted. I can never lie to you, Mom.
We'll be honest with each other. That's what's most important. Thank you for watching. Who knows what's next for Jessica? Stay tuned to find out.
You really need to start making dinner. We have been eating takeaway for 2 days and it's not like you can keep cutting corners.
I've got a fever of 104 degrees Fahrenheit and it's hard for me to even get up.
You can't even manage that job properly. It's like you're a total failure as a wife. Honestly, even your mom has been calling you out on it. Well, fine. I'll be gone for about a week. Just call me when you're better. Anyway, I'm leaving now.
A week later.
I'm home.
The house was like a ghost town. Your fever still hasn't gone down to 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit yet? How's your appetite? You should eat something. I've got peach-flavored jelly if you want.
Okay, I'll have that.
My name is Sarah. I live with my 6-year-old only child Tommy and my husband Mike.
Hey, I'm starving.
Sorry, I'm getting it ready now.
Is he still coughing?
Yeah, the doctor said this year's flu is particularly bad.
They say that every year.
True, but...
Did you wash your hands after you left Tommy's room?
No, I didn't.
You need to wash them. What if you give it to me? I don't want to catch it.
Sorry, I'll wash up.
But if you stay around here, who knows when I might catch it myself. I'll be in the bedroom. Bring me the food when it's ready.
Mike is completely indifferent to household chores and, even though our son is sick, he only worries about his own health. I brought the food.
You're late. Do you even care about whether it's me or Tommy that needs attention? Just leave it in the hallway.
That's not a good way to talk.
Of course it is. My job is to earn money for Tommy. If I catch the flu, it's a different story.
Sure, Mike is the main breadwinner. But please, Tommy wants to see his dad's face. He's feeling lonely. Can't you at least show your face?
And if I catch the flu, who's going to take responsibility for that? Even if you catch a cold, it's not the end of the world. So you want to go to work instead of me?
That's not what I meant.
I don't have time for pointless arguments. Just put the food down and leave.
I quietly placed the food and went straight to Tommy's room. How are you feeling now?
A bit better, thanks. Mom, is everything okay between you and Dad?
You were arguing a lot earlier. Children are surprisingly perceptive. Tommy seemed to be fully aware of our argument. A week later. After a week, Tommy's flu improved, but now Mike was sick.
I have a temperature of 99 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, did Tommy pass it on to you?
It's because you were touching everything with your dirty hands after taking care of Tommy.
Is it my fault?
I'm going to take a break.
Mike's symptoms were mild, with a slight fever and runny nose, but he made a big fuss and started taking sick leave. Well, that's fine, it's just that I should probably go to bed soon.
Oh, and when I am done sweating, wash my underwears and bring them to me. Also, I'm thirsty, so go buy a soda from the nearby convenience store. Bring it back in 5 minutes.
You know where the underwears are, right?
And get me some iced tea since there's no sports drink.
What's with the attitude?
You're so indifferent, while your husband is suffering. You're supposed to be a wife. Do your duty.
I guess I have to. To make our relationship a bit better, I'll put up with these demands. After a week, Mike was completely better and back to his old self, but now I caught the flu from him.
I'm back.
Sorry, I'm still feeling unwell.
What? You were here all along. You don't need to fake being sick.
Sorry. About dinner, is it okay to order a takeout? I'm in the mood for Chinese food.
What, you couldn't cook?
I've been feeling sick all day, and you told me not to touch.
It's your poor self-management that's the real issue. A wife's job is to prepare what her husband wants to eat and wait for him, right?
Mom, I cleaned the bathroom.
Oh, you are helping. That's unusual.
Well, Mom's been sick with the flu.
Tell Mom yourself. Mom doesn't want to cook today. You'd rather have her cooking than convenience store meals, right?
But...
Okay, I'll go shopping now.
Finally decided to do something, huh? Hurry up.
I didn't want Tommy to see the marital arguments. I tried to prepare dinner. With conditions like this, my flu wasn't going to get better. My fever reached 104 degrees Fahrenheit due to complications from the flu caused by Mike. I was running a high fever and could no longer meet Mike's demands.
How long are you going to stay in bed? Seriously, make dinner already. Are you going to keep ordering takeout forever? How long are you going to keep cutting corners?
I got a fever of 104 degrees Fahrenheit and it's hard for me to get up.
Isn't it your poor self-management causing this? Stop being so selfish. This is why women are useless. They can't even take responsibility for their work.
Is cooking my job? Seriously?
Yes, of course. Why do you think you are cooking at a hotel? You're supposed to cook to make our meals. You're our home's waiter service. You're failing at your job. You're a complete failure as a wife. Even your mom must be disgusted with you.
He laughed condescendingly and brought a travel bag from his room. Where are you going?
Since you can't handle the housework, there's no point in me staying here. Don't worry, I'm not divorcing you or anything. I'm going to be away for about a week. Just call me when you get sick. Bye now.
What? Mike rolled his travel bag and left the house. I couldn't handle him anymore. He probably thought of me as a housekeeper or some kind of robot who never gets sick. I vowed to get revenge on Mike.
I'm home.
When Mike came back, the house was empty.
Hello? Where are you?
I'm at my parents' house.
There's nothing at home. Did you do it?
While you're not home, I canceled the lease.
What right do you have to do that?
Did you think of me as a housekeeper robot or something? The rent for that house was paid by me, to say more accurately, by my parents. The house was owned by my parents. I have been paying them as a rent. Don't you remember that?
Oh, I don't remember that. The house is mine, not your parents. Such logic doesn't hold. Your parents are just as clueless as you.
You're really simple-minded. I'm currently at my parents' house and I'm recording this entire call. My parents are listening too. Do you want me to have my dad talk to you?
You're messing with me. You don't know what's going on with me. Hello?
The call was suddenly cut off. An hour later.
What's going on? Explain yourself.
An hour later, Mike arrived. Oh, what happened? Did you catch a cold while traveling, Mike? He looked unwell, wearing a mask and coughing.
You can see I'm not feeling well, right? That's why I cut my trip short and came back. If you understand, then hurry up and come back to take care of me. I've got a sore throat and can't eat. Get me something.
You've got the energy to yell at me, so you must have the energy to get your own food.
So this is how a wife acts?
You caught the flu because you didn't manage your health properly. It's your own fault.
I'm in the mood for Chinese food today. Pork is fine. What? Can't you cook?
The problem is your poor self-management. A wife's job is to prepare what her husband wants to eat and wait for him, right?
Did I say that?
His condition seems to be getting worse and he's responding weakly. This is all your fault, Mike. You should go to work. Taking a day off like this is unprofessional.
Shut up, I'm the pillar of this house. It doesn't matter what your parents say. If you understand, then hurry up and cook.
You don't seem to be reflecting at all. Here, take this. I slammed a divorce notice in front of Mike.
A divorce? You think you can get a divorce over this?
The lawyer said it's possible. My parents also told me to get a divorce immediately. Tommy said, even if I'm separated from Dad, it's fine.
Everyone doesn't understand they can eat because of me.
Get out of here quickly.
I'm sick. This is a violation of my human rights.
Weak from his cold, Mike was quickly kicked out of the house. However, I was sure of one thing. Mike clearly thought it was just a cold, and I thought the same. But Mike's appearance was odd. His face had a yellowish tint. It shouldn't be like that from just a cold. The answer to this would come a month later after I handed him the divorce papers. A month later.
Hello?
Mike's voice, heard after a long time, was now very thin and sounded like he was sobbing.
Why? Why me? I haven't been able to get my fever down, and after testing at the hospital, it turned out not to be the flu. I'm scared every day. I can't sleep at night, can't drink alcohol, and I lost my job. Help me.
Huh. Did you receive the diagnosis report?
Of course I have it.
I'm on my way now. Please prepare it. Mike's apartment was a shabby out-of-town place. It was very dirty. Ugh, it's so dirty. Didn't you clean up a bit?
I don't have the energy. Could you do it for me?
No way.
Is that the way to treat a sick person?
When I saw Mike, after a long time, he had lost a lot of weight. His illness was apparent to anyone who saw him. What did the doctor say?
He said hepatitis B.
Well, that's good to hear.
Good? You don't even know what you're saying. Your husband is suffering from a serious illness.
I told you this is just due to your poor self-management. From now on, you'll live in constant fear of death. By the way, what about Irene?
Huh?
Mike's complexion grew even worse to hear his affair partner's name from me.
What about Irene?
Well, you can't answer that. She's in the hospital for the cirrhosis, right?
How do you know about it? Are you happy that a young woman is sick? You really are a twisted person. And besides, Irene was just a girl I got to know a little at a bar.
Hepatitis B is a disease that spreads from person to person through blood.
What?
Mike looks like he's about to die. Hepatitis B is transmitted through sexual act, you know.
That girl.
Tears are falling from Mike's eyes. I heard that she didn't want to have a relationship because of her illness, but you forced her into it. And you even gave her money, didn't you? Mike stares blankly with tearful eyes. I'll be keeping a copy of this medical report. It will serve as solid evidence of your infidelity. And by the way, Irene won't be on your side anymore. I'm also saving our text messages. From what I gather, Mike initially just had a customer relationship with Irene, but he became obsessed and pushed for a relationship. Even when he left our home, he ended up crashing at Irene's place, causing her trouble. When Irene was considering reporting him as a stalker, Mike developed hepatitis B. With all this evidence, I can probably get a fair share of your assets.
Please, just wait. I'm the one at fault here. I've lost my job, spent almost all my money on Irene, and I'm out of cash for the hospital. At a time like this, you're going to divorce me and leave me?
It's too late for apologies, so please just let me live.
Even if you only leave me the bare minimum for the hospital, I'll be grateful.
No, why should I do that?
But I'm still part of your family. Please, I'm begging you.
By the way, since you're unemployed, it's all a waste. With Mike's desperate screams and sobs echoing, I left his apartment.
It's me again. Actually, I'm sick and I need money for treatment. Don't hang up. Wait. Is anyone there? I need help.
Mike is still suffering from his illness. Normally, with appropriate treatment, one can live a normal life with hepatitis B. But buried under debt from alimony and unable to manage even basic needs, Mike is unable to get proper medical care. His selfish nature means no one is around to help him, and he lives in a rundown apartment, fearing his illness. I'm sorry for the trouble caused by Mom and Dad.
No, Mom isn't at fault. It's Dad who is. But now that Mom is better, I'm happy.
Thank you. I started a new life with my child. It feels like there are more smiles in our home now. I'm really glad to leave my husband, who has been treating me like a thing.
I inherited $5 million from my father, and my husband said, "How much are you going to give me?" I said, "0."
My parents passed away when I was 28. The reason was a contagious disease. They went on a trip abroad and unfortunately caught a local infection. My father was a top heart surgeon, and my mother was a leading anesthesiologist. Both of them were highly regarded not just in the US, but also all over the world. They worked tirelessly every day to raise us. Growing up seeing them work so hard, I followed in their footsteps and pursued a career in medicine. My older sister became a successful entrepreneur and now runs multiple businesses. Her dream is to build a hospital where I can work as a doctor, and that has become my goal as well. Now that our parents are gone, my sister and I support each other, but I never expected things would turn out the way they did. My name is Lily. I am the younger of 2 sisters, and I'm 29 years old. My older sister is 30. I work as a surgeon at a university hospital while my sister manages various businesses as an entrepreneur. She is single, whereas I got married last year. My husband John is the same age as my sister. We met at a small bar where I used to go after work with my colleagues. John was the bartender there. After a long day, I always thought John looked great in his bartender uniform. Our relationship began with my confession, and we got married after dating for a year. However, I soon learned that dating and married life are completely different. I hadn't realized before, but John had a terrible drinking problem and was very lazy. When I reached home at 10 p.m., he was playing a game. "Hey, why didn't you return my calls? I went to the bar earlier, but it was not open."
Oh, have you been there?
"Why was it closed?"
I told you. I quit.
"Quit? Why?" I was taken aback by John's abrupt statement. Annoyed by my reaction, John responded,
Well, when you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. You're rich, so what's the point of me working?
What are you talking about? I couldn't understand John's comments at all and could only stare in disbelief.
I want to live freely. No risks, without worrying about what society thinks, just doing what I love. Isn't that what life is really about?
John spoke proudly, but I was stunned by the huge difference in our attitudes toward work. I had always assumed John was working normally. Later I found out he had missed work several times while I was at the hospital. However, John showed no sign of remorse and casually admitted it. When I found out, I was so angry that I lost all words to respond. For now, I was disappointed at John's complete lack of intention to stop playing the game. I asked him, trying to hold back my frustration. So how long have you been playing this game?
Since around noon.
No way. I raised my voice in disbelief. This was because during the noon hours that day, a serious car accident had occurred and I had to miss lunch to deal with the emergency. While John worked hard every day, I always motivated myself to do the same. But he had easily betrayed that motivation. Maybe John never intended to betray me. The results were far from the expectations I had inflated on my own, and that was what made me so disappointed. I decided to think that John wasn't at fault. At that moment, John, with a smirk on his face, asked an unexpected question.
By the way, what happened with your father's inheritance? Wasn't it supposed to be a lot?
Huh? I was momentarily taken aback. I never expected such a topic to come up suddenly. My parents passed away right after I got married, and as John said, the inheritance procedures were completed. While my parents were highly sought after for their excellent medical skills, both domestically and internationally, my mother was focused entirely on her work and had little interest in money. As a result, all of her money was managed under my father's name. After deducting inheritance taxes from the total savings, about $5 million remained for my sister and me to share. The inheritance was so massive, and inheriting my mother's disinterest in money, I haven't touched it yet. I just thought I'd use it if needed in the future. In contrast, my sister quickly started a new business and used the funds for that. When John suddenly brought up the inheritance, I was taken aback and couldn't stop staring at his face. During that time, John seemed to eagerly watch me. When I came to my senses, he had a relaxed smile and asked,
So how much are you going to give me?
And it seems to think that he received some of the inheritance I received. What's gotten into you all of a sudden?
You're so oblivious. Think about it. With a wife who's waiting with a fortune right in front of me, who would continue working just for the heck of it?
Realizing that John was trying to live off the money I had, I decided to be straightforward and ask him directly, What's your deal? Are you seriously trying to live with a cut of my inheritance?
You sound bad. I'm just saying it's a waste not to use money that's available. Also, working when you have money is inefficient.
John insisted that his viewpoint was correct. As I continued the conversation, I noticed empty beer and whiskey bottles scattered around him. He was probably drinking while playing games. Being a former bartender, he had a higher tolerance for alcohol, but I knew his overconfidence when drunk was a downside he didn't realize. This flaw of his only made me more irritated, and I felt like I was being put through additional trials on top of my already exhausted state. However, during such times, my mind was unusually clear. I knew that telling John the truth would lead to further issues. I'm not really focused on money, right? Since my salary was already more than enough, the inheritance I had was zero. My sister inherited everything.
Oh, so you mean you gave it up?
John looked down at me with an expression I had never seen before. I had an idea of what he wanted to say, but the words he used were worse than I expected.
I thought your parents' death put you in a good position to benefit.
Isn't that a bit inappropriate? It seemed John felt he wouldn't get a share if he stayed with me. He threw out insensitive words and pushed me aside before leaving. Left alone in the house, it felt eerily quiet after the earlier commotion. I couldn't guess where John went, maybe a casino or somewhere far away. But I didn't have time to worry about that. I had planned to shower and go to bed, but I was fully awake now. I made some coffee and called my sister. Hello, sis.
Lily, what's wrong?
I told her everything that happened after I came home.
I see. If you need any help, just let me know. I'll back you up on the inheritance issue.
My sister encouraged me and promised various forms of support. Once we were done discussing John, we caught up on other topics. My sister mentioned that since expanding into new ventures with our parents' inheritance, things have been going well. She says she now manages several businesses overseas, including drilling wells, establishing hospitals, and selling pharmaceuticals. She now spends less time in the US, but it was clear from her tone that she's enjoying her life. I couldn't let myself fall behind. After chatting for over 2 hours, we wrapped up our call. I thought I should go to bed soon. Just then, John came back. "Where have you been?" Without answering, John approached me holding a piece of paper.
"Here, fill out these divorce papers."
I was stunned and couldn't understand what was happening.
"I'm going to divorce you and remarry your sister."
"What? That's impossible."
"Well, I figured out that even if I stayed with you, I wouldn't lead a wealthy life. So I'm going to dump you before that happens."
The word dump made something inside me snap. I didn't know exactly what I felt, but all the remaining feelings I had for him vanished instantly. It was like my HP in a game was critically hit and went straight to 0. John was the type to stick to his decisions stubbornly. Even if his words were impulsive, he was likely to go through with this divorce. Thinking this, I called my sister again.
"We just talked a little while ago. What's up now?"
I told her that John was in front of me, presenting divorce papers, and claiming he would remarry her.
If that's the case, maybe I should get married to him."
"What?" My sister's response surprised me. It seemed that John was smirking, pleased by my reaction.
"Don't worry. He wants to marry me, right? If so, I'll make sure to get back at him for what he did to you."
"Thanks."
"Put it on speaker, please."
Feeling slightly relieved by her words, I set the phone to speaker mode.
"John, I heard about it from Lily. Let's get married." "Oh, your sister is amazing." "But you won't ask for a share of Lily's assets, right?" "Why?"
He wanted to share my assets.
"Of course, responding to your sudden proposal. I have the inheritance and will support you, but you must not touch Lily's savings. That's my condition."
John reluctantly agreed. Now I had the assurance that the $5 million inheritance and my savings were safe. After all, John had never contributed financially. He had only spent his money carelessly. With my sister's intervention, we divorced, and a few days later she and John got married. The apartment felt a bit lonely, with just me left. I wonder how my sister will get her revenge. 3 months later, I received a call from John. "Hello?" I answered with a low tone, seeing John's name I didn't want to see.
"Lily, help me."
"What's wrong?" From the phone, I could hear my sister's angry voice in the background.
"John, didn't I tell you not to leave your post? Hurry up and come back." "I don't want to. There are dangerous people around."
I could make sense of what was happening from their conversation. My sister took the phone.
"Lily, sorry, I'm currently in the field. I've been taking John around for work. I'll call you again."
It seemed my sister was very busy and abruptly ended the call. A week later, John called again.
"I'm sorry. It was my fault. Please, let's get back together."
"What's going on now?"
"I'm overseas and I've been surrounded by dangerous people. It's scary here and I need to go back to the US."
John was speaking with a trembling voice.
"I can't handle it."
"It's okay, but you're on your own getting back."
"I'm not providing any interpreters or bodyguards." "That's harsh. I just want to live in peace."
"Peace?
Isn't this the very definition of peace? You're living off my money and getting to travel overseas a lot."
John, who was likely crying again, was shouting and arguing, but my sister ignored him.
"The inspection is done. Next, we're going to secure a distribution route for safe, clean water." "No, I don't want to."
The call ended with John's desperate cry. Eventually, his calls became a source of entertainment for me. I had no lingering feelings for him, nor was I relishing his plight. It was just satisfying to hear about his struggles.
"Lily, please tell your sister. I'm at my limit. I can't take it anymore." "Oh, stop being so pathetic. Next time you'll have to find your own way back."
John seemed completely subdued by my sister. I thought it was good that he was married to my sister.
"John, try this." "What is this?" "It's a kind of insect given by a child. Some cultures eat insects. In the US, edible insects are becoming more popular." "I don't want to eat this." "Well, you're going to eat it. If you waste food, you won't get any spending money this month." "That's unfair. I want to go back to the US."
John's cries were not heard by my sister. I remembered my sister's tendency to exact revenge. She used to punish boys who bullied girls in elementary school. I realized I never wanted to be her enemy. It became apparent that my sister enjoyed hearing about his difficulties. "This isn't fair. I don't want to work."
Life isn't that sweet. I don't want to work. It's not fair. There are countries with completely different diets and dangerous conditions. You were trying to live comfortably off our deceased parents' money. Do you understand how lucky you were? I can't do that. Can you drink the dirty water here? Can you walk on sand barefoot? Can you return to the US and handle a job where you're responsible for people's lives? No, I can't do that. Then what can you do? A quiet moment passed over the phone. You and I have spent time together, and John has spent time working as a bartender while with Lily. Which was happier for him?
Sis?
It was more peaceful to stay with Lily. And yet you abandoned Lily to justify for your own downfall. If you chose to marry me, then you need to take responsibility for that choice.
John was sniffling. My sister's voice was firm and reasoning.
There are the rules everyone has in life. I became a businesswoman to enrich people's lives, and Lily is dedicated to saving lives. But you have nothing, right? So you need to help me from now on. That's your mission, to become a real person and make up for your actions.
My sister's words were convincing. She had interacted with many people and established her current position. Her broad perspective and strong beliefs shaped her.
Lily will take good care of the inheritance she has. What do you mean?
It seemed John had not changed fundamentally.
That's exactly it. You still don't understand.
This couple, or rather the master-servant couple, seemed to be more accurate. After things settled, Sister talked to me.
This has settled things a bit. I'll make sure John takes responsibility for his words. You should find someone even better.
Oh, sis, I feel like I've done something wrong. It seems you didn't have the option to choose who to marry.
I understand your feelings, but I think living with John might be okay. Little by little, I'm feeling more attached to him, so don't worry about it.
My sister had always been focused on her work and said she was not interested in marriage. If you feel even a little happiness, I want to support you.
Thanks, Lily.
I'm supporting you. I hope you're happy.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
My sister said she was heading to her next destination. Through this experience, I realized my sister's strength once again. I still have a long way to go to match her, but I'll keep working hard to stand proudly as a doctor and as a person.
My husband's mistress claimed she deserved him. I said, "He's yours." After they married, I sent congrats. She was shocked.
Divorce? I wanted to believe I misheard it, but I clearly heard the word. You're divorcing me to marry someone else? This was the first time I noticed the kind husband once I knew were no longer here. Sadness overwhelmed me and tears began to grow.
Oh no, she's crying.
She put her hand on her chest and gave me a pitiful look.
Poor you, but I'm more suited for a high-earning man. A woman like you who doesn't even care about her appearance can't be by his side.
Shocked, my body trembled, barely able to stand. Yet I still couldn't let go, so I asked my husband. Didn't you tell me to come home early today because it's our wedding anniversary?
Oh, I forgot.
Struggling to suppress my rising breath, I desperately tried to convey my feelings. My husband just snickered. I felt an unbearable humiliation and extreme misery. But in that moment, I wanted to tell myself not to cry. They'll face unimaginable consequences. My name is Jane Miller, a 45-year-old employee at a foreign company. I live with my husband, Brian, who is the same age, and our son, Sam, who is preparing for college next year. My husband has been kind enough to take care of the house while I work. To outsiders, we probably look like the perfect family. However, recently, I've noticed something odd about my husband. Don't get too close to the screen. You'll hurt your eyes. My husband had been staring at his phone for over 30 minutes. Are you watching some interesting videos? I stopped my computer work and approached him from behind. He quickly closed the phone screen in a hurry. I thought I saw a glimpse of a message app, but I wasn't sure, so I didn't ask. For the past 6 months or so, he's been constantly checking his phone. Even at home, he never lets it out of his sight. Whenever he has a moment, he's glued to the screen. It was natural for me to feel uneasy about his sudden change, especially since he used to prefer TV over his phone.
I'm going to take a bath.
Okay. He jumped up from the sofa and headed to the bathroom, of course, with his phone. He sometimes stays in there for over an hour, maybe playing with his phone while soaking in the tub. His back looked like that of a stranger, making me feel anxious. While he was in the bath, I tried to distract myself by focusing on the work I brought home. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the unease. I ruffled my hair and closed my laptop sitting on the sofa. The warmth left by my husband, who had been sitting there earlier, made me feel strangely lonely. My husband's suspicious behavior didn't stop there. He started paying attention to his appearance as well. He was fixing his hair in front of the sink. It's rare for you to use hair wax. Going somewhere?
An old high school friend got in touch, so I'm meeting them.
But your school was an all-boys school, right? Would a man really care about his hairstyle when meeting another guy? The face he made in the mirror looked strange, occasionally smiling at himself. It was very suspicious.
All set.
Satisfied with his hairstyle, he nodded and put on a sweater with a famous brand logo on his chest. At the entrance, he put on a watch he recently bought, which cost over $10,000.
I'll be back later.
He sprayed some cologne and left. The watch was heavy and luxurious, clearly a high-end item. Recently, my husband started going out on weekends more often. That night, while making dinner, my husband seemed even happier than he had been in the morning. He was smiling while cooking, and the meal seemed very elaborate. He was using white wine, and the kitchen was filled with a lovely aroma. Dinner looks amazing tonight. What are you making?
It's an aqua pazza. Let's use the good dishes for a change.
He pulled out some nice ceramic plates that had been stored away for a long time. He carefully plated the finished dish, and our dinner table suddenly looked luxurious. Oh, it looks delicious.
Wait a minute.
I was about to dig in when my husband stopped me. What's wrong? I'm starving.
I want to take a picture first, so hold on.
He started taking pictures of the food with his phone. I could understand wanting to capture such a beautiful dish, but this had never happened before, so it felt strange.
Okay, you can eat now.
With his permission, our son and I began to eat. While eating, I tried to subtly probe him. You've been dressing nicely and making these fancy meals. Did something good happen?
Nope, nothing in particular.
But I noticed that he blinked rapidly at that moment, confirming my suspicion. Something was definitely off. I thought about it as I took a bite of the tender fish. Since then, my husband became unusually kind. He was always kind, but now it felt forced, like he was walking on eggshells. I opened my planner to check my schedule and then realized the mystery of my husband's behavior. Our 20th wedding anniversary was coming up. I wanted to tell my past self how cute the sticker decorations were around that date. If it weren't for that, I would have completely forgotten. My husband must be planning something special for that day. That's why he was searching frantically on his phone, studying his appearance and experimenting with fancy dishes. Back then I was blissfully naive, unaware of the reality. Now I want to shake myself and say, that's not what was happening at all. But I was completely oblivious, eagerly anticipating a possible surprise for my husband.
Mom, there's something I want to talk to you about.
What's up? My son, who is usually confident, now looked uneasy. He's a smart kid, so it was rare for him to be this nervous.
Lately, when I come back from study group, Dad's not home.
What? But you usually come home around 9 p.m., right? He's not there at that time?
Yeah, but dinner's always ready, so I'm fine.
I'm sure he hesitated to tell me, but I appreciated that he did. Thanks for telling me. Don't worry, I think I know what's going on.
You do?
You have a school trip tomorrow, so you should get some rest. Good night. My son went to his room with a relieved expression. It bothered me that my husband was out so late, but knowing how kind and family-oriented he was, I convinced myself it was nothing to worry about. He's probably just having drinks with friends after work, I thought, brushing my teeth before bed. The next morning, my son left for his 4-day school trip. Take care, and have fun.
It's not exactly for fun, but I'll enjoy it.
After seeing him off, I got ready for work. I can't be late for the train. I hurriedly put on my shoes as my husband spoke to me.
Can you try to come home early tonight?
I'll try. I think I can make it home by 7 p.m. if I hurry. Why? I pretended not to know. Today was our 20th wedding anniversary, so I expected my husband was planning something.
I'll tell you when you get home.
Now I'm really curious. All right, I'll come home early. His face lit up and I found his excitement endearing. Even though I was usually busy at work today, the hustle felt pleasant. I worked as quickly as possible. Thank you for your hard work. I'm leaving on time today. I stood up right as the clock struck 5 p.m. and quickly left the office. I texted my husband to let him know I'd be home earlier than expected. I hurried through the evening crowd at the station. Since our son was born, 18 years had passed without us having much time as a couple. But tonight, it would be just the two of us. Should I pick up a nice bottle of wine on the way? Or maybe he's already prepared something special. Thinking about it, I quickened my pace home. I'm home, I called out as I opened the front door, but there was no response. Is he hiding somewhere? I looked down to take off my shoes, and then I saw something shocking. What's this? In front of me was a pair of cute pumps with a ribbon, and they weren't mine. My heart started pounding. It felt like someone was telling me not to go any further. I tried to convince myself it was a gift for me, but that was clearly not the case. I took a deep breath and slowly walked towards the living room. I opened the door, hoping what I was about to see wasn't true.
Oh, hey.
My husband raised a hand casually, and beside him was an unfamiliar woman. They were sitting comfortably on the sofa, probably watching TV. That sofa was a cherished memory from when we first got married. I felt a surge of anger as if that memory had been tainted in an instant. Who is this? I asked coldly, and the woman feigned fear.
Oh no, she's scary. Brian, help me.
The woman, who looked to be in her mid-30s, clung to my husband using a sweet, pleading tone.
This is Mary. I'm dating her now.
He revealed their relationship without hesitation, and I let out a choked cry. This woman, Mary, was my husband's mistress.
We jumped right into the main topic, so I think we scared your wife. My bad.
Her hand was adorned with perfectly manicured nails. Her hair was glossy and well-kept, clearly spending a lot on her appearance. I found myself unconsciously touching my own nails and hair. When was the last time I went to a salon? My nails were overgrown and I had forgotten to cut them. Comparing myself to this mistress, I felt pathetic. After a long silence, my husband spoke.
So, yeah, I want a divorce.
Divorce? I wanted to believe I misheard, but I clearly heard the word.
I'm divorcing you to marry Mary.
For the first time, I realized the kind husband I once knew was no longer here. Sadness overwhelmed me and tears began to flow.
Oh no, she's crying.
She put her hand on her chest and gave me a pitiful look.
Aw, poor you. But I'm more suited for a high-earning man. A woman like you, who doesn't even care about her appearance, can't be by his side.
She provocatively spewed her words, making me shiver in anger.
Once we're divorced, this luxury condo will be mine, so you better leave.
Our home, this condo worth over $1 million, had perfect security and was conveniently connected to the station. Even if sold now, it would still hold great value.
We're going to live here soon.
Mary looked around the room with a dreamy expression.
The kitchen is so spacious. Cooking here would be fun.
I'll cook for you. Just like you saw my acqua pazza was great, right?
A dual shock ran through my head. My husband had been cooking elaborate dishes not for us, but for this woman. We were just his test subjects. Shocked, my body trembled, barely able to stand. Yet I still couldn't let go, so I asked him, "Didn't you tell me to come home early today because it's our wedding anniversary?"
Wedding anniversary?
Today marks our 20th year of marriage. My husband suddenly looked as if he remembered something.
Oh, I forgot.
I struggled to suppress my rising breath, desperately trying to convey my feelings. He just snickered.
It had nothing to do with you. All my efforts were for Mary. I only treated you nicely out of a slight sense of guilt.
It's clear my husband's heart no longer belonged to me. My mind cooled rapidly and the tears stopped. I took a deep breath and accepted their demands. If that's how it is, I'm happy to let you go.
Really? I was worried you'd put up a fight.
He smiled the brightest smile of the day. They embraced, jumping up and down in joy.
I'll be staying at Mary's place for a while, so you better move out within a week.
I'll take Sam with me, okay?
Yeah, we don't need a kid around for our new life together. Besides, he's a high school senior. He's not cute anymore.
Hearing them speak ill of my son, I almost lost my composure. But by this point, I was already plotting my revenge, so I managed to keep my cool. Fine, I'll move out within a week.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
They left, and the room fell silent. Exhaustion washed over me, but I couldn't afford to waste time. I immediately started preparing for the move, searching for a moving company online and making a quick reservation. A few days later, the divorce process was complete, and our marriage was officially over. My son and I moved to my parents' house.
My phone was confiscated during the school trip, so I was shocked when I finally checked my messages.
My son casually mentioned it as he ate an apple pie my mother had baked. I had told him to come straight to my parents' house after the trip instead of going home. I debated whether to tell him everything, but he'd be starting college next year. There was no point in hiding the truth, so I decided to be honest. His reaction was much more nonchalant than I expected.
Oh, I see. So I'll be going to school from here now?
You're not surprised?
I kind of had a feeling.
He smiled as if amused by my obliviousness.
You're really clueless, Mom. You totally missed the mark.
Hearing that from a teenage boy really stung. But then he said,
It's okay to be a little clueless. Being too sharp can be exhausting.
He drank his tea like an old man, and his demeanor gradually helped me regain my composure. And just 3 days later, I received word that Brian had remarried his mistress. Congratulations. We should celebrate.
Wow, you're surprisingly considerate. Yeah, how about some good wine?
Sure, I'll take care of it. Brian, who had acquired a beautiful mistress and a luxury condo, was clearly riding high. I decided to give them a grand celebration. I sent them a bottle of vintage wine from my parents' cellar, along with something else. 4 days later, just as I expected, I received a call from Brian.
I need to talk to you in person. Come over right now.
Even though he demanded I come immediately, I was at work. But knowing how he lived without regard to time or day, I agreed. I'll be there soon. I told my boss I wasn't feeling well and left early, heading to the luxury condo that was once my home. Even though it was once my own house, it felt strange to need permission to enter, thanks to the auto-lock system. I rang the doorbell and Brian greeted me.
Come in.
My ex-husband, who had grown arrogant, led me to the living room, unaware of the hell he was about to enter.
Took you long enough.
Mary was standing there with her arms crossed, her glossy hair and manicured nails still immaculate. On the dining table beside her were several documents. I had a feeling things would go my way and couldn't help but smile.
What are you smiling at? Did you think it's funny to send something like that?
She slammed the table, and the papers fluttered. Unfazed, I calmly responded with a smile. It wasn't a joke. It was a legitimate gift. Didn't you like it?
Are you kidding?
She waved her hands in frustration, looking like a furious actress.
This condo is going on the market?
Yes, along with a bottle of wine. I had sent them documents informing them that the condo was up for sale. I didn't see the wine I sent. Did you already drink it? I looked around the living room, deliberately ignoring the topic they were so focused on. My dismissive attitude clearly didn't sit well with them. Their faces turned red with anger.
Look at me when I'm talking to you.
She slammed the table again.
What's the meaning of this? This place is supposed to be mine.
His language had become cruder, which saddened me. You've changed. You used to be such a kind and gentle person. He raised an eyebrow, clearly irritated.
I like who I am now, no matter what you say.
Then enjoy your new life in a different home with her.
What do you mean by that?
Brian was growing more and more frustrated with my evasive answers. He started tapping his foot nervously, causing the tea on the table to shake. Was he always this restless? Are you sure you want to say this in front of her? It seemed he has secrets from Mary. If so, what I was about to say could potentially end their marriage. He furrowed his brow and nodded slightly, signaling me to continue. The condo is in my name. She leaned forward in shock, while Brian looked dumbfounded. You really are careless, Brian, forgetting to change the name on the deed. Or maybe you just never thought to do it in the first place. The truth is, this condo was a wedding gift for my parents. They bought it, and the deed was in my name as part of an early inheritance. You didn't contribute a penny to it, and that hasn't changed since we got married. I'm glad you never noticed, Brian. Thanks to that, I can now sell it.
No way.
She stepped back in disbelief.
But you told me you bought this place with money from your successful business.
Business? What business?
You said he was running a company and making stable profits.
It turned out that Brian had been lying to her all along. Sweat was beading on his forehead, and he kept swallowing nervously. It was only a matter of time before she discovered the truth. So you said you like who you are now, but do you also like lying to your mistress? You really like being a fake, huh? I tried to make eye contact with Brian, but he kept avoiding my gaze, nervously sipping his tea.
Lying?
Mary furrowed her brow, not understanding the situation, but my sense of revenge told me to keep her in the dark a little longer. Anyway, we're divorced now, and I don't need this place anymore, so I'm selling it.
No,
he yelled.
You can't just tell us that and expect us to accept it.
Mary also raised her voice in protest, as expected. It wouldn't be easy to get them out, so I decided to push them. Then why don't you buy it back, Brian?
Buy it back?
He pointed at himself, his mouth hanging open. Yes, after all, your company's profits are stable, right? Mary is just praising you as a high-earning man, so it should be easy, right? I expected Brian to be thrilled with my proposal. Instead, he turned pale, his hands trembling. What's wrong? Is there a problem?
No, it's just...
It was Mary who reacted the way I expected.
That's right, we can do that.
She clapped her hands, pleased with herself.
It's a good idea. Why don't you buy it back?
I joined in, acting generously. It might hurt your finances a little, but with your income, you'll make it back in no time, right, Brian?
Yeah.
Then Mary's thoughts began to wander in a different direction.
Wait, why don't we just buy a house instead?
Her eyes widened as she considered the possibility. Watching her emotions fluctuate was like riding a roller coaster.
Yeah, if we move a little farther from the station, we could buy a house with a yard for the same price as this condo. That might be better.
Her determination seemed to solidify, and she turned to Brian.
Let's leave this condo and buy a new house.
Wait, buying a house all of a sudden?
Mary was puzzled by Brian's hesitant attitude.
What's there to worry about? Afraid you can't handle the mortgage? Sam goes to a private school, so you must have plenty of money, right?
Sighing inwardly, I watched Brian squirm, unable to confess the truth. Is it time to reveal everything? Feeling it was a waste of time to drag this out, I finally revealed Brian's true identity to Mary. He doesn't have the money to buy a house because he's a house husband.
You?
House husband?
Yes, he's not a high-earning man at all. He's just unemployed. Mary stepped back, shocked. Brian hates that his younger colleagues were getting promoted ahead of him, and he quit his job without telling me. When he came home that day, he said, "I'm done with that job." He drank heavily out of frustration. I understand his resentment, but I thought quitting over that was weak. Fortunately, I was also working, so I suggested he become a house husband. Since then, I've been the sole breadwinner, supporting the family on my own. Our son went to a private school for middle school, and I could afford his extracurricular activities. With Brian's income, it would have been impossible. So when he told you he was a company president, that was a lie. Brian slumped into a chair, his elbows on the table, too ashamed to look up.
How could you deceive me like this?
The menacing tone in her voice sent shivers down my spine. Her eyes were burning with anger, ready to explode.
What's with all the lies about business success and buying this condo? Everything was a lie, wasn't it?
She spat the words out as if they were venom. Brian froze in shock.
From the moment we met until today, everything was a lie,
she murmured, throwing her hands in the air in defeat. Now I was curious about how they met, but that would have to wait. I had other questions for Brian. Why did you lie to her and have an affair wanting a divorce from me? He finally looked up and began to speak slowly.
At first, being a house husband was great. You appreciated my efforts. But over time, I started to feel miserable, knowing I earned less than you even when I was working.
His voice trembled as he spoke, his shoulders hunched, looking as if he might disappear. I never looked down on you for being a house husband. In fact, I admired your ability to handle household chores. But then you met Mary at a cafe one day. He nodded silently. Mary thought he was a self-employed businessman because he was at a cafe during that day, and he couldn't correct her assumption, so their relationship continued from there. His self-esteem, which had been low because of work, was boosted by her compliments. Brian started dating her, unable to stop the lies.
The more she praised me, the more I believed I was actually amazing. I started to feel like I was the one supporting the family.
Believing those lies from his mistress, he even told me he wanted a divorce. That's what led to this whole mess. Finally hearing the truth, I felt a sense of closure. Now I could move on, and I reached into my bag.
Don't mess with me. You're unemployed and can't even keep this condo. What was the point of marrying you?
Her voice, though muffled by the walls, was incredibly loud.
I'm really sorry.
Brian kept bowing his head, repeatedly apologizing like a broken record. Seeing a 45-year-old man begging a 30-something woman for forgiveness made me pity him. He kept apologizing, but her anger showed no signs of subsiding.
I don't need a man like you anymore. We're done.
Refusing to accept his apology, Mary declared her intention to divorce. Even Brian, who had accepted his mistakes, protested.
No, I still love you despite everything.
But her response was cold.
I don't care about that. I'm leaving, and I'll send you the divorce papers later. Make sure you sign them.
What if I don't sign?
Then I'll sue you for fraud.
Fraud?
Brian turned pale, showing the most fear I'd seen all day. Since he'd lied about his job to get married, he had indeed deceived her. But could she really press charges over that? As I wondered, she added something shocking.
Even if the police don't take action, my old gang friends will.
It turns out she used to run with a rough crowd and still have many connections. Terrified, Brian finally agreed to the divorce. With the end of the conversation in sight, I pulled out the final document from my bag. Here, both of you sign this. I placed the papers in front of them, detailing the alimony they owed me. I put a black pen in front of each of them, pressuring them to sign immediately.
We can't pay this. We need to find a new place to live, and we don't have any savings.
Her plan to marry into wealth had collapsed, leaving her with nothing. I briefly considered showing mercy, but that thought quickly vanished. I remembered my son's face. The woman in front of me had taken my son's father away. My desire for revenge burned stronger. There's no need to force a signature. Mary's eyes lit up with hope, but I quickly dashed it. I could just enforce it legally, letting your employer find out the truth.
That's so unfair.
Who's really being unfair here? You had an affair with a married man and thought you could just replace me. Where's the fairness in that? So, are you going to sign or not? I pressed her for a decision. She trembled as she reluctantly signed the papers. Knowing that losing her job would make her life even harder, she decided to sign and pay alimony while working. Now, it's your turn, Brian. Unlike Mary, he signed without hesitation. Thank you both. In 3 days, the realtor will come, so be out by then. With those words, they hung their heads and quietly said, okay. Don't forget to send the keys to my parents' house. With that, I left the defeated pair behind and walked out of the condo. Later, I received a call from the realtor confirming they had found a buyer for the condo. Of course, it wasn't Brian. The proceeds from the sale were meant to go to my parents, but they insisted I use the money for my son's college tuition. Brian and Mary got divorced, and she quit her job out of shame. Brian didn't find a job here and returned to his rural hometown. The day before he left, he called me. He reminisced about our marriage, but I was over him, so I quickly ended the call. Now, I'm still busy with work. My son was accepted to his first choice university and has started living on his own. Although I miss him, I finally have time for myself again and have resumed my old hobby of rock climbing. From now on, I'm going to live my life doing what I love.